some more Donald Trump nonsense, but at least the facts are coming out. Per the Associated Press, the IRS failed to pursue mandatory audits of Donald Trump on a timely basis during his pregnancy. Of course they did. A congressional panel found on Tuesday, raising questions about statements by the former president and leading members of his administration who claimed he could not release his tax filings because of the ongoing reviews. That's what they claimed. That's what they said all along. A report released by the Democratic majority on the House Ways and Means Committee indicated the Trump administration may have disregarded the IRS requirement dating back to 1977 that mandates audits of a president's tax filings. The IRS only began to audit Trump's 2016 tax filings on, April 3rd, 2019, more than 2 years into his dumpster fire of a presidency and just months after Democrats took control of the House. Ironic, isn't that crazy that happened? Only after Democrats took control. That date coincides with Rep. Richard Neal, the panel chairman, asking the IRS for information related to Trump's tax returns. I guess they said, right, we were supposed to get on that, right? Because on account of him being the president and us wanting to hold him to account. Yep, our bad. That's how it works in this country. The 29-page report was published just hours after the committee voted along party lines to release Trump's tax returns in the coming days, raising the potential of additional revelations related to the finances of the one-time bad businessman who broke political norms by refusing to voluntarily release his returns as he sought the presidency. What's he hiding? We're about to find out. The vote was the culmination of a years-long fight between Trump and Democrats that has played out everywhere, from the campaign trail to the halls of Congress and the Supreme Court. But an accompanying report released by Congress's nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation also found repeated faults with the IRS's approach toward auditing Trump and his companies. IRS agents in charge of the audits repeatedly, get this is unbelievable, did not bring in specialists with expertise assessing the complicated structure of Trump's holdings. They frequently determined that a limited examination was warranted because Trump hired a professional accounting firm that they assumed would make sure Trump properly reports all income and deduction items correctly. Okay, let me comment for a second here. They did not have IRS officials able to process his taxes and assess them because they trusted Trump's hired accountant. Amazing. We don't get that kind of treatment as lay people, but Donald Trump did. Donald Trump gets to be trusted, a man who can't be trusted, who anyone who hears him speak for 5 seconds knows he can't be trusted. IRS is like, he's good, right? Let's go to the next slide. We must express disagreement with the decision not to engage any specialist when facing returns with a high degree of complexity. Yeah. The tax committee report states, we also fail to understand why the fact that counsel and an accounting firm participated in tax preparation ensures the accuracy of the returns. Yeah, they fail to understand that because it's not understandable, because everyone's tax people, their job is to do right by their client. They don't work for the government. That's why the IRS is there for oversight. And also I'm tired of people when they're calling people out on doing very shady things, using this soft language. We also fail to understand why the fact the counsel. How about this is ridiculous and obviously incorrect? That would be more direct language in my opinion. The reports released Tuesday renewed scrutiny on one of the biggest questions that has surrounded Trump since he shifted from reality television star to unlikely presidential candidate. Why did he abandon the post-Watergate tradition of White House hopefuls releasing their tax returns? Trump and those around him have consistently said that IRS audits prevented him from doing so. Here is actual audio of Trump speaking about his tax returns. Actual audio. I would love to give them, okay? But I'm not gonna do it while I'm under audit. Trump said on April 10, 2019, before boarding the presidential helicopter, there are no laws, of course, that would have barred Trump from voluntarily releasing his returns, even if they were being audited, even though that was the excuse he always gave, because he's a man full of excuses. Excuses are like we're on television right now and the internet, and I can't say what I wanted to say, but you know the phrase. Excuses are like something that everybody has on their underside. Okay, great. In response to the findings, the Ways and Means Committee is proposing legislation to beef up the IRS's approach, requiring an initial report no later than 90 days from the filing of a president's tax returns. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the chamber would move swiftly to advance the legislation. Little too late, Nance, but sure. I suppose at some point it's better than nothing. Democrats argue that the IRS is ill-equipped to audit high-income complex tax returns and instead targets filers in low income brackets. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Of course they do. They target people they can easily catch who don't have the ability to wiggle out of stuff because we're busy trying to make ends meet and pay our bills and work for inappropriate, underpaid wages. Something they've tried to remedy with their work on this panel. But Republicans have vowed to cut a recent influx of funding for more IRS agents. Of course they have. That's the first bill they say they will consider upon taking the House majority in less than 2 weeks. What are they gonna try to do? Solve the problems facing this nation? Nah, not interested in that. They're gonna try to help people who are downtrodden, disadvantaged, help people who can't afford to put food on the table, who are working multiple jobs and are being burdened in an unreasonable way by their tax burden? Nope. What are they gonna try to do? Solve healthcare crisis in this country? Immigration crisis? Are they gonna try to help the climate crisis? No, they're gonna make sure their first order of business is fire IRS agents who are hired specifically to target them and their rich buddies. That's the way it goes down in this country now. That's my opinion. I'm curious, AB, if you see it any differently.
Nope, I don't. I actually think this is right along with Trump's MO, right? So you deny and you lie, right? Deny and lie, and you make people feel like they can't trust government. When in reality, we can't trust you, right? If you can't even be transparent enough to know to let us know where your money come from and where it's going, so that we know as American people that the same stuff that you talk about in terms of making sure we have businesses here in our own country and we're not doing all that business with foreign countries, just let us see the tax returns, bruh. Why is it an issue, right? That's my first point. On the second point, it goes with the IRS saying we assume that this is gonna be right. Well, like you said, when you assume something, you make a what out of me and you? And this is what has happened to the American people. So now not only are we looking funny on our own soil, but we're looking funny to these other countries too, who look at us and say we are supposed to be the blueprint for democracy, but democracy ain't right about now.
These are very strong points, AB. And while we have not been able to see all of Trump's tax returns, they will be released in the coming days. That is the good news that comes out of all of this. Congress just voted to do so while the Democrats still have the majority. But like you said, let us look at your tax returns. Let's see what business you're doing with foreign entities. The only thing we can look at right now, as immediate proof always of his work with foreign entities, you can look at the tags on his ties and his other clothing he sells, made in China. China, as he says, the one country that he says is our biggest enemy. Weird, does a lot of business there, doesn't he?